Those using AI planning to generate alternative plotlines for a historical fiction, plus other ideas for sequels and prequels to established works. Hi, my name's Bob Foster and I'm a Courserian student studying the online course entitled AI Planning. This video has been created in response to the creative challenge in week 4 of the course. Students have been invited to describe an innovative application to the theories and techniques they've learned in the course so far. And my original intention when I signed up for this course was to study at the awareness level only. I didn't feel I would have enough time to achieve the performance level since I'm already enrolled on 4 other Coursera courses and have several other creative strands in my life, one of which you'll hear about later on. However, my interest in this subject has grown steadily as I've watched the lectures, and when I read the description of this creative challenge, the idea for a novel application just popped into my head. How could I not create a video about it? Now that I've got as far as creating and submitting a video, I imagine I'll also be putting a great proportion of my time into this course from now on. As you might have already guessed from my title, the creative strand I mentioned earlier is the creation of works of fictional literature. I began with science fiction inspired by Asimov and Douglas Adams. However, a more recent project is a historical fiction that attempts to describe the events surrounding the creation of the poem Kubla Khan by the remarkable romantic poet Samuel Taylor Coleridge. I've spent many wonderful holidays in the area where the poem is supposed to have been written, and now have several passages for the book. My intention is for the story to describe a walk made by the poet on which he is accompanied by his friend and creative companion Dorothy Wordsworth. The idea is that the poem was inspired by the sights and sounds they encountered during this walk. However, there's also an additional surprise component of this inspiration, but you'll have to buy the book to find out what that is. One problem surrounding this project is that there are conflicting opinions among historians about the date and circumstances of the creation of the poem. For instance, in addition to the originally published work and its accompanying preface, there was a recent discovery of a slightly different version, the Crewe manuscript. The preface to the newly found version is accompanied by a significantly different description of the circumstances of the poem's creation. There are also other sources which cast further doubt about the truth of either of these descriptions. As you can imagine, this presents me with a dilemma as I piece together my intuitively generated passages of fiction while also trying to fit in with the various opinions of the historians. In planning my plot structure, I continually try to comply with the constraints imposed by the historical evidence, and inevitably there are some claims that I cannot satisfy, since the accounts are often in conflict with each other. So in addition to compiling a plot structure, I also need to be able to identify the claims by historians which I've not been able to satisfy, so that I can prepare my defence in the event of a challenge. My idea for using AI planning tools is to use the problem domain definition language to define some key characteristics of the problem domain, and then to use one of the planning algorithms to generate some ideas for alternative plotlines. The goal state would simply state that the poem was written and contain references to all the locations and other inspiration sources identified in the descriptive passages that I've written, as well as the evidence presented by historians who've studied Coleridge. I'm not yet clear about exactly how this will be done, but perhaps the process would include the application of statistical NLP. The initial state might be assembled from known previous contacts with the locations and other inspirational sources, e.g. Dorothy and William Wordsworth, that are proposed as possible inspirational sources for the final passage of the poem, and this might include NLP analysis as well, of the poet's previous works, and some perhaps personal letters and other significant works that had been written at the time. The constraints could then be written to ensure that the sequence of locations visited during the walk lead from the place where the walk begins and end at a farm that is close to Culbone Church, which is where everyone agrees was the location for the poem's creation. The output would be a collection of alternative sequences of locations on the walk, annotated with reminders about the inspirations that are suggested for each location. So there's the idea. And then, as a follow-on thought, it also occurred to me that the planning of alternative plotlines for established works of fiction, the allegorical novella Animal Farm, sprang to my mind. As long as the author has hit upon a clever goal state, then the initial state and constraints can be defined through NLP analysis of the existing text, and so adapted versions of AI planning tools can then be set loose to generate the plotlines. Thanks for listening.